Good evening, parents of Solomon Schechter Academy. Welcome to our new families who are joining us this evening, and to our current families as well of the Amiel Early Childhood Center. My name is Julie Schneider. I am Assistant Head of School. Je suis Directrice Générale Adjointe. I'm going to be moderating the evening for you. I'll take a moment to introduce my colleagues who are on the call. I have Mr. Stephen Erdely, our Head of School, Jennifer Ben-Walid, our principal, Jim Goyle, our Director of Finance and Operations, Directeur des Finances et Opérations, Randy Mendel, Directrice de l'École Préscolaire, Director of Early Childhood Education, Dara Lang, Vice Principal, Directrice Adjointe, and Stephen Karaczynski, our Président du Conseil d'Administration. So thank you everybody for being here with us tonight. What we're going to do is, we have a number of questions that have come in from parents over the last week. I hope that everyone has had a chance to read the information that we sent out to you last Friday, and thank you for doing so. We'll answer as many questions as we can in the next hour. And you're welcome to write into the comments for us if you have other questions that we don't address, and we'll try to take them as they come. And of course, if we don't have enough time to cover everything in the hour, you're still welcome to contact us as you have, and send email to covid@ssamontreal.org, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So Stephen, please go ahead.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir à tous. Merci pour prendre le temps avec nous ce soir. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time. Obviously, these are very, very unprecedented times. Although it'd be nice to do this sort of town hall on a regular basis, and maybe we can implement this as a new tradition in the school, because I always think the more sharing you do and communicating is important. No matter what time of year this is, it's always a anxious time, a stressful time, as we're coming off a wonderful summer and have the 10 million things that we need to do to get to school. But obviously the circumstances this year are different, and that's where we'll be spending our time tonight. As my role as president of the board, what I just want to take a minute or two to share is, from day one, from the beginning of March, our meetings and our time has spent and focused on this topic and the safety, security, and well-being of our children and all the families that are part of our communities. And that hasn't stopped all summer long. So everyone involved, especially on the board, has the children involved at the school. We care just as much as everybody, and this is top of mind, and really are trying to do everything we can. These are not easy questions, these are not easy times, and there's not all the answers out there. As you can see from what the government has put out, things change on a regular basis, and what we're trying to do here at SSA, at Solomon, is try and go above and beyond to provide the best possible experience for you as families, and of course for your children. And although it's scary, it's difficult, it's challenging. Some of us are more comfortable going out and doing things, some are less. Where we're trying to take solace in our family is, the joy our children get of going back to school, of learning, of being with their friends, is trying to push all of those scary and sort of things away. And that's the attitude that everybody in this meeting that you see here today and the entire staff is taking, is how do we make this a special time for the children, because they need it more than anything else. Seeing and speaking with their friends, some of them had a chance to play with them at camp, whether it's backyard camp or day camp or the play date or whatever it is. The kids need this special time, and all my three daughters have gone through the Amiel Center. I know how amazing it is and how it has helped them develop and grow. And just want to assure you that we're doing everything we can to make sure that you have the best possible experience. So this session is not about us, this is about you. So I will stop talking, and Julie, send it back to you so we can get to the parents' important questions and issues tonight.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So I'll ask our head of school, Stephen Erdely, to start the conversation.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Stephen. Today, we're here to try to answer the questions you have. Over the last week or so, we've received quite a lot of questions, and we know you have concerns. We know you're nervous. We're a little bit nervous ourselves as well. This is new for us. Every year there's certain things that happen again and again, but this year there are many new tasks, many new initiatives that we're taking that we've never done before. We've looked into things like air quality. We've looked at things like making sure every child is safe in terms of masks, meeting with our medical advisory committee, with all the volunteer parents that are involved in committees like the risk and safety, the real estate committee. And our goal is to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure your children are safe. And that is what we're working on as a team. Today, like I said, we'll do our best to answer the questions you have. If there are questions we don't answer, please feel free to email us. We ask you to be patient. We've received a lot of emails, a lot of requests for meetings, and we're doing our best. But of course, we want to make sure that the school is ready for all children. And we ask you to, keep that in mind, and also to keep in mind when you're having questions or discussing issues related to school. If you're nervous, keep in mind that has an effect on your children as well. So we ask you try, if you're feeling stressed, discuss it amongst yourselves, among the adults, and try not to get the children involved, because we want them to be relaxed as much as possible when they're starting the new school year. So I'll pass it back to Julie, and look forward to the evening. And thank you for joining. Merci.
Thank you, Stephen. So we'll start with Randy Mandel, our Director of Early Childhood Education. Randy, can you share with us a little bit about what back to school is going to be like in the Amiel Early Childhood Center for the preschool and the kindergarten? What are some important things and some concerns that parents may have shared with you, and how we're addressing them as far as back to school?
Hi, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful summer. I'm looking forward to seeing all the children. I've missed them. It's been a way too long where I've gotten to see them and see them live and in person. So we are looking forward. And although we're all feeling, slightly nervous, my job and the teachers' jobs are going to be to make sure that the children feel that they're in the right place and that they feel secure where they're going. There's a few little protocols that you should know. The children coming in and out of the building will be wearing masks, but when they're in their classroom and when they're playing with their friends, they will not be required to have masks, and we want to make it business as usual. If they have a scraped knee, we're going to help them and we'll be in close contact with them. If they need a hug, they're going to get a hug. The teachers will be wearing masks, and they'll be wearing some eye protection to keep them safe as if they're in close proximity. And whenever there's a chance for the teachers to have some distance, they will take it off. Whenever we go outside, masks will not be necessary. We really want the children to feel the real experience that SSA has. And we're going to do all the other stuff on the other end about making sure that there's extra cleaning going on and making sure that any new protocols or anything that the government sends out, that we're taking care of that. But really, my focus is going to be to make sure that the children feel safe and secure, and that they feel like they're just going to school. I don't want them to feel like it's anything different. They need to feel that warm and fuzzy feel that we've always had at SSA. And my goal is going to be to make sure that that is a constant throughout this year, COVID or no COVID.
Thank you, Randy. I think it's an important point, especially when we're talking about young children starting school. Of course, we have a lot of children entering junior pre-K who are new to the school, and also at the kindergarten level, a lot of new families in the school. And so we will do, and we continue to do our utmost to make sure that the transition is smooth as possible. As you're aware, we have some play dates in the park coming up on the Sunday before school. So that's a nice chance to feel comfortable and to get to know each other and to get a chance to mingle with teachers. And again, we may want to make that transition as easy as possible, even though drop-off is going to take place outside the building for this year. Please remember that that's a change for you as a parent, but that the children are a lot more resilient to it. And especially if they're new to the school, this is just going to be the new way for them. So we have to all make it positive and as simple and easy for them. And we will be there to help and to guide you along the way. I can promise that. I'm going to turn to, Randy, do you want to go ahead?
I just wanted to jump in to reassure parents about the dropping off outside, because I know I've heard some concerns about that. Although it's going to happen outside, especially for the first few weeks, I am going to make sure that the children's teachers are outside. So they will be greeted by the teachers, and parents will be able to ask those questions and say good morning. And then we will send off small groups to go upstairs to the class, and the teacher will remain outside for that first little while to really make sure that parents and children have that familiar face first thing in the morning. So I just wanted to reassure parents with that. You brought it up, and thank you.
Jim, can you share with us some of the protocols, some of the cleaning measures that have been taken over the summer in preparation for the school, and the additional measures that have been put in place for once school starts to make our parents aware?
Sure. Sorry, I had to unmute. We've done our regular cleanup, but on top of that, there's like a major cleanup. Everything's been disinfected, every table's been wiped, everything's been cleaned down. There's walls that have been completely painted. Where we've had to change our hand sanitizers to have new dispensers that allow for the alcohol-based ones. We have portable washing stations that have been installed. We purchased a tremendous amount of personal protective equipment. As Randy mentioned, we have to protect our staff and visitors to the school that may have to come in. And we have plexiglass desk shields for the students' desks. We were installing signage to control the traffic flow in the school. There'll be staircases going up and other staircases going down. We're going to be purchasing different disinfectant sprayers and foggers to accelerate the cleaning, because as Randy also mentioned, the frequency of the cleaning and the amplitude of it needs to be on scale with the COVID virus. And we've also hired a professional team of cleaners. So we had some employees, and right now we wanted to make sure that we had a team behind them that should one of them be absent due to COVID, we need to be able to have people that could supply us endlessly with people. So that's very important. And finally, one of the new items, a lot of that is some regular stuff we've done, but we reviewed all the air systems in the school. So we've installed UV lighting in our existing air exchangers. And we've also purchased air purification systems that will be in each classroom. So we want to make sure the airflow gets changed anywhere from 4 to 6 times in an hour to make sure that that's what what they recommend. So we had professionals come in to consult us.
Thanks, Jim. Stephen, maybe you want to add a little bit about the different teams who are consulting with us, as well as some of our parent committees who are involved. And then I have a follow-up question for you.
So we've been very lucky on a few fronts. The Medical Advisory Committee has been very helpful. I've been meeting with them regularly. So this is a team comprised of doctors many of whom are dealing with COVID-19 patients on a daily basis. So they've been consulting with us and giving us advice, and basically has made sure, as Stephen Karashinsky mentioned, that we continue to go above and beyond. Our goal is not just to meet the minimum government standards, but to go well beyond to make sure every child is safe. We've also, as Jim mentioned, we've also been looking into the ventilation system. So the other day we were on the roof, Jim, myself, and 3 ventilation and heating experts and air quality experts on the roof examining the systems that we have in place. We went class to class looking, and we've come up with a 3-prong approach to make sure that in every room the air is clean. In addition to, I'm sure everyone has heard of HEPA filters. We've been looking at the MERV filters. We've been looking at electrostatic. We've been looking at UV lights as well, which will kill all the viruses and bacteria such as the coronavirus. And one of the devices we purchased that we will have, we just purchased 43 of these units that will be in classrooms throughout the school. So these, not only do they have all these, they also have a system that releases peroxide, a small dose of peroxide, which will kill any virus or bacteria that is on surfaces. And it's actually the same technology that is used in the International Space Station by NASA. And we're proud to have purchased this. And I want to thank, they were members of the Real Estate Committee. We had also the chair of the Risk and Safety Committee and other parents who were in the field that have been consulting with us along with these experts. to make sure that we purchase the best tool for our students, for our parents, for our staff, so that the air is clean and we're hopefully going to kill any virus that could be in the air. Thank you.
I just want to jump in because I know you hear the word peroxide and sometimes people get a little nervous, but just know that anything that is in the school, whether it be a fogger or whether it have some disinfectant, anything and everything that we are using is beyond child safe, food safe. So I just don't want parents to worry about that. So just wanted to reassure you.
Thanks, Randy. So, Stephen, one of the questions that's come up quite a bit is, and we have one in the chat as well, is will our children be sent home if they have a cough but no fever? And then, of course, you know, there's a lot of different permutations. And I know that for a lot of parents of toddlers, there's winter runny noses and frequent coughs and all of those kind of things. So can you explain a little bit more about that?
So what we've done is, as previously mentioned, met with the medical advisory committee, and we've looked at different symptoms. And based on the data, based on the studies, there are 4 key symptoms that we're looking into. So one is a fever, having a fever of 38 degrees or higher. We're looking at shortness of breath. We're looking at cough and a loss of smell or taste. So any child who experiences one of these symptoms, I should say any child or any staff, if this occurs during the day, they'll be put into a room with a staff member. So if, for example, the main campus, let's say that would be with Joy, and in the Amiel Center, that would be with Randy, who will have the full equipment. The parents will be contacted. They'll be asked to pick up their child. And at that point, the child will ask the child to get tested. There are testing clinics throughout the island. The nearest one is at the Jewish General Hospital, but I believe in the short term or near future, there'll be other clinics being added. So we're trying to err on the side of caution. If a child gets one of these symptoms at home, let's say, we ask you to let us know by reaching out to the covid@ssamontreal.org email. You know, some parents, I understand, might think it's a bit extreme. Like I said, my goal is to err on the side of caution. Now, we know that, just I guess on the flip side, we know that children may have runny noses. You know, and to make the distinction, if a child has a runny nose, then we're not expecting that, you know, you jump to get them tested for COVID-19. However, what we are asking in a case like that is for them to stay home, you know, to stay home at least till they're symptom free. Now, if there's a specific case where a child has a chronic runny nose or something to that effect, then I would say that's a point that you should definitely reach out to Randy about, you know, or we can reach out to Joy, or if we need, we can consult with our medical advisory committee. But I would say, you know, the goal is for us to try to follow these rules and to act quickly and obviously to make sure everyone understands the rules and regulations.
Randy, can you share a little bit with us about the pickup procedures for after school? And maybe Dara also, you can mention for the main campus, so that way we can understand for parents who have siblings in both buildings what that's going to look like. So Randy, go ahead.
So for the junior pre-K and pre-K, parents can pick up really anytime. They'll be asked to either call beforehand or buzz at the door and let us know they're there, and we're going to bring down their child. Between 3:30 and 3:50, we're going to ask parents to refrain from just doing a drop-in pickup, just so that we can start getting the children dressed and getting them ready. And then we're going to dismiss in the same fashion as the main campus, but everything will be about 5 minutes earlier. So in the main campus, it is split into 3 sections where the children will be released alphabetically. And we're going to do the same thing so that parents can come to the Amiel Center. So all the kindergarten children will be dismissed in that fashion. Any child who is not staying, that is any child that's not staying for extended day, obviously. And as well in the junior pre-K, if they're not staying for the extended day, that's the time they're going to be dismissed as well. We will make sure that every child goes directly to a parent. You know, until we get to know some of the new faces, it might take a drop longer. So we ask everybody to be patient, but we know that it's going to work to our advantage so that having it staggered into different sections is going to alleviate. The one thing that we do ask is if you're not at your time to remain in your cars, because if everybody is going to come at the same time, we're going to end up with an issue of too many people outside. And perhaps if you are waiting outside and you can't respect the social distancing, wearing a mask might not be such a bad idea, although we might need you to pull it down so we could see your faces of see who you're picking up. Okay, Dara?
I just want to add that I want to ensure that all the children will be safe, even if you're running a few minutes late, that we will have staff that will always be out from the beginning of the first group, even though we're staggering it in 3 different groups. We will have staff that are always going to be outside until the last child is picked up. And I don't want to have to repeat what Randy said, because you kind of said what we're doing as well. And we're trying to ensure that it's easy for parents to pick up by dismissing through alphabetical order.
Now we have a question that came in about how drop-off is going to work in the winter and whether teachers will be waiting outside. So it's a really good question, because we're thinking a lot about, and we've probably asked ourselves and answered probably 1,000 questions in the last week, and leveraged our expertise and our teachers' opinions and our parents' opinions and experts in the field to guide us with answering these questions. So one thing that's really important to mention is that this is a plan that's fluid. And that we will constantly be reviewing and evaluating. We are putting in the best possible measures that we can to ensure that your children are safe and are happy coming to school. And we will look at those on a week-by-week basis and see what's working, what could be improved upon. And of course, things are going to change when the weather turns a little bit colder. So right now, we don't have an answer for the winter because we're just trying to address September, but it is on our radar. We are definitely thinking about it. Same for inclement weather. And, we'll ask for you to be patient with us as much as possible. But what I want to try to explain to everybody is that we are taking it on a week-by-week and month-by-month basis, And the plan that you saw that we emailed to you on Friday was really a plan for the month of September. And so we don't intend to make major and drastic changes as we go into October. But if there are things that we need to adjust as the weather changes and for improvements to the plan, we will gladly do so, and we will communicate with you throughout. So please be patient with us. Right now, the number one focus is on the first week back to school and ensuring that the back to school transition is smooth, but we are thinking about all of the different kinds of concerns that come up when the weather gets colder. So we have a few questions that came in on YouTube. So one of them is, actually a couple of people would like to know about the temperatures being taken.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that. This has been a point that's been discussed extensively by the Medical Advisory Committee. We looked at studies not just from Canada, but from other countries as well. And the problem they found with this was we have situations where children, let's say, are running in the morning to get to school, they're in a rush, and just by being a bit stressed or nervous and rushing to get to school, it could give a false positive. And we're looking at the data along with the medical advisory. The decision was made to not do temperature testing at this point because we were concerned we would end up with so many false positives that it would cause a lot of stress for parents unnecessarily. We also were worried about a bit of a traffic jam being created at the entrance to the school. So all that to say, at this point, we are not going to be doing temperature checks as the students arrive. However, what we encourage all parents to do is to check on their children on a regular basis. If you see that your child is feeling a bit warm or hot, then I would say, please keep them home. Please check their temperature yourselves. But at this point, we're not going to be doing medical checks temperature checks on a daily basis.
And Stephen, what is the protocol for when a child has tested positive for COVID?
So it's a good question. I don't have a perfect answer. So the protocol is first that we inform all the parents. So if there is a COVID-19 positive test for any child in a school, whether it's in junior pre-K to grade 6, all parents will be informed. We will contact immediately with Santé Publique or Public Health, and we'll work with them to figure out what the next steps, whether it's going to be let's say a quarantine at the level of class, possibly the grade, or even the entire school. But that is a discussion that's going to be had with the school and Santé Publique. But the goal is to be transparent and share as much information with all parents as soon as we have it. And of course, we'll be consulting with the authorities and take the necessary steps as per the government protocols.
Thank you, Stephen. So one question that's come in, both in our email and in the chat, is should the kids not understand the teachers because of their masks? Can they use a face shield instead? Will they take their masks off? How do they learn languages with their lips covered? And what are we doing about it?
So maybe I'll answer this one as well. What the school has been purchasing are masks with different windows. So I don't know if you could see this one. So this is one of the prototypes. So every teacher will get a mask like this with a clear window. And the goal is we want the students to see their teacher's face. We want them to see their smile. We want them to feel that happiness. We know that it can be a bit cold when children don't see that and they don't see the expression. And especially for younger children as well, they need to see their teacher's lips moving, especially if it's in a second or third language, if it's in French or in Hebrew, so they can understand how to speak properly, enunciate, and so on. So every teacher will get this type of mask so that the students can see their teacher's smiling face every morning and every day.
That mute button. Sorry, everyone. Just wanted to jump in to add to what something that Mr. Erdely was saying. When the teachers are going to be sitting up in front and have enough distance, they are going to be able to remove their mask. But we are also getting desk shields for the teachers as well in the class. So if they're working in close proximity with the children at a desk or at a table with 3 or 4 children, they can put up the plexiglass separator between them so that the children can see their faces and that they don't have to have their masks and visor or eye protection on at that moment. So just to reassure parents that there's many different scenarios, and we're going to try and do as much as we can so that the children get to experience that face-to-face.
So we have a question that's come in the chat about, the separation anxiety that some young children feel when, they've spent especially when we spend so much time with our parents, the last 6 months. And we know that this is going to be a challenge. So Randy, if you could share a little bit about that procedure, the teachers will be outside. What happens, who's taking them up the stairs? How are we going to do that? And, of course, there's going to be room and time to adjust to that, I imagine, as well.
Right. So look, we know it's going to be a difficult transition. They've been with you. I think some of the children are ready to leave, though. I think they're ready to get back and rock and roll, but we understand, especially that moment where you have to say goodbye. So I'm going to ask parents to, really not be firm, because the children need to know that they feel safe. But once you say goodbye and you leave. And even if they're crying, we're there. We have our teachers, we're going to have extra support staff helping us bring in. Student services is going to be there to help us out as well. We're going to make it as nurturing, even if we pick them up to take them in. They're okay with that. It's the minute of releasing from a parent that's difficult. The teachers will stay outside. They might walk in a small group to hand them off to their assistant or to another friendly face that they're going to get to know at the Amiel Center to take them up. And then the teacher will remain outside for a few minutes. Once we see that most of the children are up, the teachers are going to go back inside the classroom, but they'll already be playing and stuff. I'm really not concerned. I think that it's harder for all of us to envision, but I think once we get going with it, the children are going to be okay. And if they're not okay at that moment, we'll be there for them. So hopefully that reassures you a bit. And I think we're going to just have to wait and see how we all do. And just remember to do quick goodbyes, because the longer, sometimes you just have 2 seconds too long and it makes or breaks the saying goodbye.
We have another question that came in. If pickup is alphabetical, then what do we do about carpools?
So we will have carpools are going to be able to wait and for each of the children to come out. And I think you have to give some directions of where your children can meet in a specific area, all the kids from the carpool or the siblings coming to meet each other in a certain area if you're being picked up in the back or in the front. And I think there's a lot of just directions and reminders for kids. And if there's anything specific that we can help you with, then you can always email me or anybody else, or send an email or a note to your child's teacher to tell them if there's anything specific that we need to know about pickup for your child.
So to add to what Dara was saying, thank you. We really, it's not an ideal situation not to be able to dismiss the whole school at once. But with safety and health protocols in mind, we are putting in place what we feel is a reasonable solution for parents who are coming after school for pickup. We don't want to make the situation untenable for everybody. We want to spread it out as much as possible, but we don't want to have the children losing a lot of class time and having you lose your afternoon doing pickup. We felt that alphabetical was really the most logical from a family standpoint, but we know that that doesn't address carpools. But we felt that that would cover more families than if we did it grade by grade. And so we're going to start off with that and see how it goes. And as Dara mentioned, to make that meeting point and arrange with the carpool, it's only a few minutes in between, so it shouldn't be an issue. And there will be lots of staff members from the school outside to ensure the kids know where they're going, and that their teachers, when they dismiss them, especially in the first few weeks back to school, and especially for the youngest children, this is a presentation for Amiel Center families, but really it applies to all of our children. And I would say most importantly in the main campus to our grade 1 and 2 and our new students. We will make sure that it works out for them. I understand it's not perfect for a family with a carpool, but we're going to try to do our best. Stephen, we have a few questions for you regarding parking around the building and how that's going to be challenged with the different 5 minutes in between and both campuses. So maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
So what I can tell you is, as someone who's often outside in the back of the school on the corner of Snowden and McDonald, there's a very short period of time where parking is very difficult. And that is when we had everyone being picked up at the same time. So when it was 4:10 for the main campus and 4:05 for the Amiel Center. By staggering it, my belief is it'll actually make it easier because instead of everyone coming just for 4:10, let's say at the main campus, you're going to have some at 4:05, and 4:10. And for the Amiel Center, instead of everyone arriving at 4:05, you'll have some at 3:55, some at 4, and some at 4:05. So I think it'll actually make things easier. Now, for those that are concerned, what I recommend would be to try to not, we understand it's difficult to tell parents not to carpool, but I would say if you have a carpool with someone who's in the same grouping of the alphabet, it would make it easier. And I would say the other option, and I believe Randy will correct me if I'm wrong, we're asking if parents want to come early, they can, but they have to come by 3:30, I believe we had said, just because after that, it makes it complicated. So I would say if you're nervous, especially for parents who are new, if you're a parent of a child in junior pre-K or pre-K, or even a new parent for kindergarten, I would suggest maybe coming at 3:30 or just before 3:30 to pick up your child. But like I said, my feeling is the parking situation this year will actually be much better because it is staggered as opposed to previous years where everyone was being dismissed at one time on the main campus and one time for the Amiel Center.
So I'll flip to Randy for some questions about hand washing. That's come up a few times, when the children will be washing their hands, at what instances throughout the day, how, and also how the bathrooms in the Amiel Early Childhood Center will work to try to keep everybody safe and healthy.
So hand washing will happen immediately upon entering the building with sanitizer. Once the children are brought upstairs, they will be putting down their backpacks and their lunch boxes. The teachers will help put those in the cubbies after. We're not going to worry about that at this moment. They're going to be asked to go to the washroom. They still will have their masks on, and that's what we're going to be encouraging. Since the bathrooms are connecting to classrooms, we're going to encourage the children to have their masks on in the washroom, wash their hands, come out, and that's when they'll be able to remove their masks. I know there was also a question. I'm sorry, Julie, what was the second part of the question?
So the question was about using the bathrooms and also
How often?
washing and also going outside to play for recess and coming in and
Yeah.
eating and all of those things.
Right. So anytime that the children go into the bathroom, come out of the bathroom, they're going to be asked to sanitize or wash their hands with soap and water. Whenever they're going to be eating, before and after, whether it be snack, whether it be lunch. Whenever they leave the classroom, they're going to be asked to wash their hands. Whenever they come back into the classroom, they're going to be washing their hands. Really, we're going to do a lot of hand washing, and thankfully little children love to wash their hands and play with soap and water. So we're good there. We're not always going to be using soap and water as much as we'd like to. It will be challenging, but for sure after toileting, before eating food, that is when they're going to, my apologies, I had a call coming in.
Is it a call about hand washing?
I don't know. Sorry about that. Now I have to totally lost my train of thought. There will be a lot of hand washing. Let's go back to that. Whenever the children leave the classroom, they'll be asked to wash their hands, and that's when they'll put their masks back on to go outside. When they arrive outside, they'll be allowed to drop their masks down. We are going to be very on top of it. It will never be punitive. It will always be said in a loving manner, because I know that sometimes the children aren't going to always listen, and we're going to encourage them. Really, I think for the in and out, they're going to get used to it, and in class, they don't need to have it on. But we will be doing lots of hand washing. That much I can assure you.
Stephen, a few questions have come in regarding the protocols for whether a child tests negative, but they still have a cough, if they can come back to school. We know we have our long and dreary winters, which hopefully won't be too bad this year. We always hope. But of course, the little ones especially can have a cough for 3 months at a time, and it's not necessarily anything to do with this. So how will you answer that?
So it's a good question. I don't have a perfect answer. What we ask is that if a child tests negative but still has a cough or a fever, that they should be waiting home till they're symptom-free for at least 24 to 48 hours. Now, if it happens where a child no longer has a fever but still has a cough that remains, I would say the best thing to do in that case would be to speak directly to Randy. I'd say that'd be more of a one-on-one discussion to have. But like I said, in most cases, we're hoping that if it's something, if it's a cough or a fever, it will pass, and COVID negative, it'll pass. My feeling, I should mention, and we've discussed this as an admin team. My feeling is we're going to have a lot less colds this year. We're going to have a lot less flu this year, because the children are going to be washing their hands so many times with these devices, with these air filtration guardian systems that we're putting in the classroom. It's going to cut down on bacteria and viruses in the air. So my hope and feeling is we're going to have a lot less colds and flu. I also it's kind of early, but just on that note, to remind everyone, when it gets a bit later on in the season, we always recommend everyone get their flu shot. I get mine every year. So we encourage everyone to do that when it comes. And I believe those are usually October, November, December, when that begins. So please do that. But like I said, to go back to the question, if it's something that lingers, that would be a one-on-one discussion to have. I would reach out to Randy at that point, and if Randy can't answer the question, of course, she can reach out to Joy, our first aid coordinator, or directly to the medical advisory committee, and they can give a definitive answer on that one.
I'm just going to jump off what Mr. Early was saying as well, is speaking to other daycare directors. The Santé Publique has also been an extremely wonderful asset to asking about these little scenarios of not being sure. And I know that they have guided the daycares over the summer months. So we also have them to reach out to. And I know that they've been very understanding about those lingering symptoms, and that if it's not COVID related, they certainly will guide us and tell us exactly what to do. And I know that it's been extremely helpful. So I know we will also have that avenue to look at. Julie mentioned that there's quite a bit of questions about the Zoom learning and the online learning. So I'm going to separate the two. There's the online learning where if we have a child who's on medical leave for something that's going on in their family and they have a doctor's note, or also if somebody, let's say, because they have certain symptoms and need to be home. So that's going to be one type of online learning. And then the other type of online learning is, should we have to close for an extended period of time, like a 2-week period, because a certain classroom or the government does, that's going to be another. So those schedules are going to possibly look very different, but I'm going to address just the ones of the day-to-day for children who might have medical reasons or who are home because they have a cough that day, a fever that day. So in the preschool, we're going to be doing a lot of live streaming and trying to get the children to be interactive with the class as much as possible, whether it be circle time, whether they're spending time at the same time as their friends are having snack, or if the teacher is reading a story. There might be some times where the child might not be engaged and want to be there just because if there's playtime. And at that time, we're going to try and get creative with what other things we can offer in between. Like maybe we can have, different stories or a yoga time that we can offer to the children that are in home. In kindergarten, it's going to be looking a little bit different and a little bit more structured, just like the kindergarten elementary school program tends to be. The kindergarten is going to also have some live Zoom modes, mostly in that teaching moment when they're explaining what the lesson's going to look like. There will be a weekly schedule for each class so that the children will know when to join the Zoom. There will also be whatever documents, if children need, it will be put into their Google Classroom, which the Amiel Center will be using as well this year. And finally, there will be some one-on-one time with assistants to help go through the learning and to make sure that the children understand exactly what's going on. So we might modify as time goes on, but that's what we're looking at for the beginning.
Thanks, Randy. Another question that's come in is about the bathrooms in the Amiel Center because they're shared. How will that work, and can they be separated somehow?
So we're not going to separate them, but we are going to be we're going to be requiring the children to wear masks when they go into the washroom because we know it is a shared space. It is really impossible to divide it because then you're taking away. And if we have 2 children who need to go to the washroom, when they need to go now. Right. And as it is, it's going to be difficult to go across. We won't be able to go across to another classroom to use it. So we're not going to limit it, but we are going to make sure. I know that the bathroom will be sanitized several times during the day. Plus also we've purchased different things and we will have wipes where we can wipe down. Faucets anyways are no touch. So we don't have to worry about that. And the teachers will be going in and making sure that the children are doing what they need to do and out they go, and then they'll wash their hands and the masks can come back off again.
Thank you, Randy. So I think we're actually wrapping up a lot of the questions that have come in. I think we've addressed most of them that have come in through YouTube. I see another one here. If you choose to start Zoom, can you switch to Classroom at any time? Stephen, would you like to address that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, what I would say is we're trying to build consistency. So to what we want, what we would prefer, and I know, there's on this note, there's some parents who reach out to us and said, okay, we're nervous. We want to keep our child home for the first week of school. We want to wait and see what happens, or we want to start this way and then switch here. The problem is we want the children to get used to the routines, especially at this age, whether it's junior pre-K or pre-K or kindergarten. We're talking about 3, 4, 5-year-olds. The most important thing they will learn in the first few weeks of school is the routine. And especially this year, there'll be many new routines, even for students who are returning, new routines with the masks, with the extra hand washing, in terms of movement of students and protocols. So look, our recommendation is we want them in there in the beginning of the school year so they get all these protocols, so they learn what they need to know, so that they can be successful. You can imagine, and you know your children better than I do, if you come to school late one day and your child missed that initial instruction for the activity or missed that initial circle time and doesn't know what they're doing, it makes them nervous and it gets them stressed, and we don't want them to be stressed. So the same token, if they're missing those first few days of school, it's even worse. Now, with regard to switching, if a family, has a medical note and wants their child to start in a Zoom or online learning and then switch to in class, of course we can accommodate them. But like I said, my recommendation would be that they start with one and stick with it for at least an extended period of time, because even the online learning, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a few days for them to get used to it. It's new for them, and just to mention, we know, and with regard to online learning, I also want to share, I know, it's one of those things we've had some mixed feedback on. There are some families who really loved it, who enjoyed it, and some children. I can tell you our teachers worked harder than I've ever seen preparing. But I can also tell you we've learned a lot. Over the summer, we researched. We looked at different courses. We looked at what other schools were doing, what other countries were doing. And we have stepped up our game, and we are ready and excited for any challenge we may face, whether it be in terms of the hybrid model where some students are in school and some are doing it remote, where we have a period of everyone doing it remote, of course, or everyone in school. And we're prepared for all those contingencies.
If I could just interject, I'd first like to echo what Mr. Erdely was saying about the importance of starting the school year in school whenever possible. We have been working through the summer and will be working with our teachers on professional development and on a plan to transition all of our students back to school, whether in junior pre-K or in grade 6. And learning these routines, learning to play with their friends and learning the protocols will happen throughout September. Students will be evaluated, will learn through play and discovery during that time. And this is where we will ensure that every student is at grade level, whether in junior pre-K or in grade 6. That being said, if a child cannot be present because of a medical reason, or a child needs to be absent for 14 days because of one of the 4 symptoms that were mentioned earlier, the online program will be excellent. It will be rich in academics, but it will also ensure that students remain connected to their teachers and their peers, so that when they do and are able to go back to school, the transition will be seamless as well.
Thanks, Jennifer. We had another question come in about pickup, and that the day can be longer because of the alphabetical staggering, that the day can be longer for some children, especially, those last letters of the alphabet all the way to Z, they're going to be there, up to 10 minutes longer. So I would say it's a really good question, and one that we'll consider. The question is, would you consider switching at some point in the year so that we could swap the letters and allow them to be the ones to leave earlier? I think we could consider it. I don't see an issue. So we'll discuss it as a team and get back to you. Again, a lot of these plans are really for the first month of September to see how school is working. We will come back and address the questions about when the weather drops and things like that, if we need to make things a little bit more fair and equitable for some groups of families with their different last names, then we'd be happy to do that. Jim, maybe you can address a little bit about the cleaning crew who's working in the Amiel Center. One of the questions has been about them focusing on high touch surfaces and how frequently those things are going to be done, and as well the working in the main campus a little bit.
Most definitely. That is correct. The high touch surfaces, your door handles, light switches, handrails, these are going to be addressed regularly during the day, multiple times. As mentioned before, we purchase equipment that will allow us to do these quickly and to ensure that the building's kept as clean as possible. And I just wanted to add one item is Mateo is still in the school. I know he's a favorite of a lot of people and he has excellent institutional knowledge. It's the others that were let go, and we got this new team in to make sure that we have consistency in our cleanliness. Going through COVID, we got to make sure that the school is as clean as can be, and that's our first priority. So that's where we are now.
Thanks, Jim. Stephen, we have a couple more questions. I think the temperature checks is another one. Some parent is asking about staff and other people in the building. So maybe you can just mention our protocol for guests in the building and as well for temperature checks. You mentioned a little bit earlier, but maybe you can repeat it for the ones who joined us later.
Yeah, so well, first to mention in terms of guests or even parents in the building, and I know this is going to be different and might be difficult for many parents. So this year, at least for the next few months, there'll be no guests or parents in the building. The only exception we have let's say, that are non-staff members. We have some students that have full-time shadows or integration aides. But aside from that, there'll be no other guests in the building. In terms of staff doing temperature checks, again, this was something we discussed with the medical advisor, as I talked about earlier, and the feeling was that it could lead to many false positives. Now, that being said, if there is any staff member who does feel any of these symptoms, the same protocol goes for them. They will be isolated. They'll be asked to go home. They'll be asked to have a COVID-19 test. And they can return when they have a negative test result and are symptom-free for at least 24 to 48 hours. Look, our goal is to keep everyone safe, including our staff. And we've had today we're having meetings with parents. Yesterday we had meetings with all the staff, and we reiterated this point to them and how important it is. And our goal is for all of us, whether it's the members of the administration, whether it's the teachers, the assistants, the support staff. We want us all to be safe as well. And my hope is that by taking these initiatives, we are, including wearing masks, including the increased hand cleanliness, including the filtration system updates and so on, that we're going to make sure the staff stay healthy and the children, and hopefully this will extend to all families as well.
Thanks, Stephen. Randy, another question came in that the parent is wondering if kids will be eating during the day with their masks around their neck and how that's going to work, how the lanyards will work, mask chains. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
So just for everybody to know, the lanyards that will be provided by the school have 2 safety release. So if it is around their neck, it will release if it's pulled on. I think that we're going to have to live through this a little bit to see how it's going to work. To be honest, I'd rather be transparent and know that, we're going to kind of have to live through the first few days to see, is it going to be best to just leave it? Is it going to be best to find a place in the class where we can put each child's picture and hang their lanyard from it so that it's not impeding them? But I think we're going to have to really take it a little bit slow. At the beginning, we'll start with the lanyards. The kindergarten children's cubbies are in their classes and nobody will be sharing cubbies. So, that's another option, is they can put it in there. But I ask everybody to be patient. We're a really big community and a wonderful community. And I always find that we work really well together. So if you have suggestions, I can't promise we're always going to listen, but we're always going to listen. I can't promise that we're always going to follow through, but we're certainly going to listen. So be patient. We're going to work it out. This is our first time with a lanyard and a mask. I think that every country and everyone around the world is kind of trying to figure this out. So I just ask for some patience, but we're going to constantly be looking at it and make it the easiest and safest and best way we can. So just be patient with us.
So I want to thank all of the parents who joined us tonight, all the questions. We did try to get to most of them. I'm sure there are still more. For those of you who may have asked us, multiple questions, we did our best to try to get to you. But please feel free to, if you have other questions, to send them to covid@ssamontreal.org. And within a few days, we will get back to you. We assure you that we are discussing all of the questions and making sure that we can come up with the best solution. Sometimes that takes a few days and we don't have an answer right away, because it's worth a good discussion with the team. So we're working on that. We will answer you. And I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Stephen?
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for being the MC for this evening. I want to thank everyone on the panel. And I want to thank all those parents at home watching on YouTube. We appreciate your questions. We appreciate your time and your trust. We're going to do everything we can in our power to make sure that your children have an amazing year where they're learning, where we're making sure their pedagogical needs, their social needs, their emotional needs, their spiritual needs are being met. I want to say a special thank you to the members of the Medical Advisory Committee. I want to thank Dr. Odelia Borton, Dr. Dory Schiff, Dr. Michael Singer, Dr. Jonathan Aflalo, and Dr. Deborah Asayag for all their support, all their time, and making sure we are up to speed on all the latest research, the latest data, and making wise decisions. I want to thank some of the parents that are on the chairs of the other committee. I want to thank Pamela Pfeiffer, chair of the Real Estate Committee, and Ryan Blatt, who's been also very involved. I want to thank Larry Rinsler, who's the chair of the Risk and Safety Committee. I want to thank also Benjamin Sternthal, who's been very helpful for us in integrating some of these new ventilation system needs or upgrades to the school. Look, we know this is a new experience for all of you. It's a new one for us. I can tell you we are prepared. I could tell you we've spent a lot of time thinking and reflecting and debating. We meet sometimes for hours, going over every point of the child's day, trying to think, how can we make sure that they're still having an amazing experience. They're still having fun. They're still able to smile and enjoy themselves, but keeping safe at the same time. I also want to mention that, I know some of you have asked about questions about tuition. This year, I can tell you we are spending a lot of money. I've had meetings with the executive and I've said to them, look, this is something we need. It wasn't in the budget, but it is necessary for the safety of all the children. It is necessary because we want to go beyond. And their answer has always been yes, that if it is necessary, if it is vital, if it's important for the safety and security, we're going to continue to do that. In terms of tuition assistance, this year we have spent 50% more, or actually over 50% more, and the numbers are rising as Jim is tabulating them, 50% more than an average year on tuition assistance, on supporting families in need so that their children can continue to have an education at Solomon Schechter. So what I would say is for those families out there, those families who are in need, we're going to do everything we can to help you. For those families who are been okay throughout the COVID-19, at least okay financially, we are going to ask you, or we're hoping that you can help support us to make sure that we can continue to put in place every measure. This year, we're hiring extra resource staff to make sure every child is up to speed and that no child falls behind, especially at those younger ages, whether it's kindergarten or preschool. We want to make sure they have those skills, the reading skills or pre-reading skills. And we are hiring extra staff when other schools, let's say, are cutting back. We put in place, like I said, extra initiatives. Each costs money. And if you have the capacity, then we ask you to help us support the school and make sure we can continue to do the best for your children from generation to generation, dole to dole. So I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing your children, seeing their smiling faces, and I look forward to an amazing and happy and fun year for all of us. Thank you. Have a good evening. Merci beaucoup. Tada.